Welcome to Feel It to Heal It, where we explore our inner world, our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, and learn how to manage ourselves and our relationships in peaceful, purposeful, and powerful ways. You can find this show on the web at eqforpeace.org and on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Now here's the host of Feel It to Heal It, Matt Perelstein.
Intro. Nope. Okay. Okay. Usually we have an introduction now, but that's okay. We'll get started anyway. So we're talking today about sadness and grief. Sadness and grief, not happy feelings, but definitely important. And we will get through them. We'll get through them like we can get through everything. So all of our feelings. So the goals for this session, to give you a little bit of what to expect here. We're going to do a feelings check-in like we always do to make sure that we know we have at least one feeling, we're aware, and we accept what we're feeling. So we practice by having little feeling check-ins. We call it name it to tame it. Sometimes it helps to identify what we're feeling. That in itself often helps. So then we'll talk about sadness, what it is, how to deal with it, the difference between sadness and grief, and some of the stages of grief you've probably seen before maybe, but they've been expanded. And so we will work on how to deal with our sadness. I'm kind of saying it a little bit down. I'm making my voice down a little bit because sadness is often, is kind of heavy sometimes. So I'm not saying it all up because it's not, but it doesn't have to trash our lives, right? So what are you feeling right now? What are you feeling right now? Check in with yourself. Have a quick little check-in. On the screen is a lot of words that you can use, the feeling words that you can use to identify what you're feeling right now. You can put it in the comments or just tell yourself, pick out one or two or three or seven. If you have a lot going on, it's okay. You can have multiple feelings at one time. What are you feeling? Not how are you feeling? What are you feeling? What are you feeling? Okay, so quick check-in. Good. So good. We're doing well. This is about trauma. This is teaching about trauma and trying to trauma just being strong feelings, strong thoughts. You had big emotions, big feelings, big thoughts about something that happened. And it could be anything. It could be anything, literally. Some people's stories are awful. And oh man, you go, wow, that was so traumatic. Some people, it was a matter of, being up in front of the room and someone said something yucky and it was horrible for them. I know a person personally that it completely changed their life because the other people thought something, they said it out loud and thought something about them, and that was a traumatic life changer for them. So it doesn't matter what happened to you. What does matter is what you do with it. What do you do with it? Not necessarily what you do about it, but what do you do with it, which is your thoughts and feelings that are around whatever happened outside of you or inside of you, but stuff that happened, just things happen and you got to deal with them. So what do you do with it? What do you do with your thoughts about what happened? What do you do with your feelings about what happened? Right. And a lot of times our parents didn't handle it very well, and our teachers and people, our adults in our life, didn't handle them very well because they didn't know about their emotions, just like most of us don't. And so we then saw what they did, and we then pass it on, right? They did what their parents did a lot of times, or the opposite, and it passes down through generations, but it does not have to be that way. One of us, somebody, you, sorry, need to change it. Need to change it. If you were not brought up with good emotional support and good emotional intelligence, and good emotional literacy, then you got to do that yourself, and you got to not pass it on to your kids and people underneath you. Your ripple effect. All right. So we're doing it different. That's kind of the point of what we're doing here. One of the points. And so off we go. So 3 steps that we use for positive mental health. Awareness first, always, we got to be aware. Second, accept. We can fight it or deny it or lie about it, all that stuff. Or we can go, I'm having a feeling. Okay, I feel this. All right. And accept it. All right. We just accept it. We can fight it as much as we want, or you can accept it. It only takes a sec. And then you get to decide whether to take some action or not, right? And you get to decide, which makes you in charge of you, which is a beautiful thing. You get to decide about what happens next. You get to choose your actions, your decisions, your actions. You get to do that. So let's talk about sadness and grief, all right? To me, sadness is kind of the purest feeling. It's kind of a weird word. I just made it up, but I mean, I didn't make up the word, but the concept of it just feels so, when you're sad about something, it's you. That is so close to your heart. It seems like it comes from your heart, and it's so pure. I mean, anger, you can change your attitude or change your thoughts that started your anger, and fear a lot of times is based on pictures of what you might perceive as being a possible threat to you, or something that's not going to go well in the future. But sadness is just a pure outpouring from your heart. It shows you what you care the most about, the stuff that you're saddest about. Check it out. It's the closest to love, in my opinion. And so it's kind of a cool feeling in that way. It feels really pure. Little kids, when they're not getting what they want, or they lose their toy, or something breaks or something, and you see their big eyes just well up and they're sad, not angry, but sad, then you know that was important to them right that moment. And so it's about what's important to you. And I think that's a neat characteristic of sadness. It's usually about loss. It usually is about loss, or something that usually someone, often, that you lost. And again, that is related to, if you care that you lose them, then you will feel sad, probably. So it's closest to being caring and loving. Part of sadness is about letting go. So awareness, acceptance, action. Aware, yeah, I'm feeling this sadness. Acceptance, yeah, I'm feeling this sadness. Yeah, I am feeling this. And then, all right, what do you want to do with it? A lot of times it has to do with allowing yourself to feel it, right? The point of this, or the subject of all of this, is feel it to heal it. So a lot of times we can allow our sadness, kind of open up our heart and go in there for a few minutes and just be sad. Just let yourself cry, let yourself feel down for a while, let yourself notice the pieces of you that feel like they're missing because somebody's gone, or something you lost. And so it's like, something was happening, something I had, and now I don't have it anymore. And it's a weird feeling. All of these are kind of hard to explain. It's a feeling. It's not a thought. It's a feeling. So it's mushier. So, and any change, really. So you had something, and then it's changed. Now I was doing it this way, and then now I got to do it this way. Well, there's some pieces of that got lost in between there. Either my comfort, my expectations, my familiarity, my safety. Notice that one, safety, is always has to do with your emotions, is safety, right? And if you all of a sudden are feeling unsafe, and you used to like to feel safe, then you can feel some sadness and grief around that. You can feel some about that. So notice anything change anytime that there's change. And if you don't deal with your sadness and grief and it gets really deep and really long and such, then it can lead to depression, which is going to be our next episode. We'll talk more about that. But if it gets bad and you don't deal with it and you don't uh, handle it or whatever, it can get bigger and get generalized and lead to depression. So watch out for that one. And it's about, when it is a loss and it is about letting go, then sometimes it gets to be a skill about saying goodbye. I was talking to some folks. I go to a men's group every Monday, and they were talking about losing their mom. No, one guy his mom, another guy his wife, and they were, they it was still there, and some of them happened many years ago, and tears were still happening, which is great. That was great. And then asking them, so what do you want to say to them? How do you want to close this? Sometimes it's about closure. What do you want to say to the person, or what would you like them to know? That kind of thing. And then you might have had that stuck in your system and never said it, never been able to express it, and that's a tough one. So sometimes saying goodbye and letting people know what you would like to say to them or would have liked to say to them, and you imagine them in front of you, close your eyes, imagine them in front of you, and you say it to them, say it out loud, and have them hear it and feel it and understand it. And then you can let go of some of that and get some closure inside of you. So um, the next is about sadness versus grief. What's the difference? Sadness is, I looked up, is sadness is a state or emotion of being sad. Wow. It's a state of being sad. It's an emotion. It's just sad. But grief, they're saying, is suffering and hardship. Grief is kind of extreme, more intense, more longer sadness. And like I said, it goes sadness to grief to depression if left unchecked. So grief is kind of a more severe type of sadness. Losing a loved one can trigger intense feelings of grief for some people, and I just said that grief can lead to depression. Um, I read some research that showed the number one uh, hard hardest thing to lose is a child, and number two is a parent. So notice these are about love, and these are about people close to you and about things that you had attached to you, actually attached sometimes with our heart to heart attachment, and now that's gone. One of them's gone, and so you're left flopping around. You had this connection, and now it's not there anymore, and you feel lost. You feel disconnected. You feel alone. You feel down. You feel blue. That sort of thing. So again, it requires some closure, or sometimes that can be very helpful. Um, if it does turn to grief, it probably have something to do with you personally. You have some big meanings around it. This person, I don't. Um, I am incomplete without my family member that I lost, my child or parent or whatever. Without this person in my life, I am incomplete. I don't maybe not fit in anymore, or I lost a good friend, and I don't feel connected, or I don't feel like I belong as well, that kind of thing. And so it makes it these big belief systems, decisions, thoughts about yourself as relates to that connection that you used to have, and now don't have, can cause some big problems inside of you. So um, The whole feel it to heal it concept is about negative feelings expressed as intensely as they are felt in the body will reduce in intensity and are free to change, right? Which means, sum it up, is feel it to heal it, right? Negative feelings expressed as intensely as they're felt in the body will reduce in intensity and are free to change. That means that if you do have this big sadness and grief, that sometimes you just let yourself fall into it and allow it, and you know, tears and ball rolled up in a ball, and a lot of snot coming out, and you need tissues and all that kind of stuff going on, and you allow that for a while, and then you and try to get it all out. Once you're in there, you don't try to stop it, you try to keep going, and not long time, but deep as you can, as intensely as your body feels them. You allow yourself to feel it, and that often can allow your body to clean it out, to let it go, and to be acknowledged and be validated. Um, and it's kind of magical the way that can work. So that's a big part of it. Um, and it's about acceptance too. So in order for you to do that, you would have to accept yourself and your fear, your problem, not your fear, your pain. Accepting as opposed to denying and avoiding and you know, trying to pretend it's not there, kind of thing. That you just let yourself fall into it for a while, and do it with some compassion for you, right? You need to have some compassion for you, that you are hurt or you lost something and you are not okay for a little while, and that, you know, and that's okay for a little while, for a while. All right. If it goes on and on, like I said, it get worse and turn into depression. But um, it, it, if you acknowledge it and allow it for a little while, it can have some pretty magical results. And notice that it can also have an anger component to it. Sometimes you lost something and things changed, or somebody left, and you're like, no, this is not okay with me. It's not okay with me. And a lot of us feel really guilty, especially if we lost somebody that didn't want to go. They didn't want to go, but they lost them. And it feels disrespectful to be angry about that. But you can be angry at the situation without being angry at the person, or you can be angry at the person. It can be the person. You can go, you know, if someone got in an accident, or somebody did something stupid, or they didn't take care of themselves and now they're gone. You can go, you know, damn it, that's not okay. That's not okay. I'm angry about that you did that. Or I can also be, it can be no fault of their own, and that's fine too. No fault of their own, but I'm angry that I lost you. I'm angry that you left me. I'm angry that I'm alone now. I'm angry. I'm angry about that. And you can be angry about that, and let yourself feel that as well. And let yourself feel it real for real. And then let it go. And then let that go. Let that go too. So notice that there can be an anger component to it. In fact, there often is. So and so if you can allow that, that would be super nifty for yourself, right? So here's a brief geez, the difference between grief. I keep saying brief and grief. The difference between grief and depression. The difference between grief and depression. Grief, they're saying that feelings come in waves, right? You all of a sudden you're just overcome with this sadness, and you remember, or you something comes up, or they get triggered, and whoosh, you just and if you can allow that for a few minutes, you can let it pass on through. Depression is often pervasive. Depression is you're down, you're down, and you stay down. That's a drag. It's continues. And like I said, we're going to talk more about depression in the next but I wanted to differentiate, because sadness, grief, depression, you're heading down. Grief is also interspersed with positive feelings. You can be really sad that you lost somebody and still have some okay times. And with severe depression, there ain't no okay times. You're not okay all the time. Most of the time, it's consistent and constant and pervasive. And yeah, all right. And then with grief, you can it's saying your self-esteem is not effective. Well, it can be or not. It can be or not. You can generalize that you lost somebody or something and make that about you and make you feel worse about it, much worse about it as a person, as opposed to depression. You can start thinking that something's wrong with you and that you're broken and you're no good and that sort of thing. So not helpful, not helpful. So notice how far you're going down, and notice that that the grief can turn to depression. You probably heard, very likely, very famous, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came up with the 5 stages of grief. This one, that was back in the 1900s, 1980s, I think, and it was very cool and very helpful for people to understand their grief, especially when it's like I said, a loss of a child or a parent. They've since expanded it and added a few steps to it. This one adds shock, right? The shock as the first one. Whoa! It is, and it can be a shock unless you're expecting it. Even if you are, it can be a shock to your system, that something's missing big time. Then there's denial, anger, bargaining, some depression, and then they added in testing, which is you're kind of coming out of it and you're testing to see if things are going to be okay again, if you can ever be open and bright and open and alive again, and you kind of test that. And then the last is acceptance, where you're like, okay, I don't have this in my life anymore. This person is gone, and I'm got to function without them, and I can accept that that's going to happen, and that I can make it through. So, good thing to look up if you're going through grief is to look up the 7 stages of grief from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Sadness, how can we deal with it? Respond, not react, which means that we put some sense into it, put some thought into it, put some intelligence, emotional intelligence into it, and we decide how to react to it, or how to respond, to it, rather than just reacting and being kind of out of control. You get to decide how you want to respond or not. Acceptance and appreciate your sadness. Again, sadness has to do with love, and so you can appreciate and accept that this is cool parts of you, and that this is what's happening inside of you. So, a friend of mine wrote some children's books on emotions. From Henry the Hedgehog is the main character, and that's the names of the books. You can look them up. Dr. Renee Skelton. They're wonderful books for kids, and they give information along with the story, and Henry's doing his thing. There's tips for the parents and how to help the kid with that emotion. So, and she has anger, sadness, fear, grief, and anxiety. So sadness and grief are 2 of the books. So you might check those out if you're interested, or you have a child that you want to be emotionally intelligent. And so let's sum it up here. First off, always give yourself permission to feel. Permission to feel. Again, Permission to Feel is the name of a book, a fantastic book by Dr. Mark Brackett of Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, one of the leaders in the world in emotional intelligence education. And I just love that title. You don't really need to read the book in a way, but if you give yourself permission to feel, it would be a life changer for you. Permission to feel. Think about that. That's funny because there's a number of books that I've never read, but they changed my life, because of the title, because I got the idea, like, oh, feel the fear and do it anyway. We did a couple of sessions ago, just like that. I never read the book, but there's some fantastic, the concept is amazing. So take emotional responsibility. Yes, I'm sad. Yeah, it's heading to grief. Yeah, it's going toward depression, whatever it is, but take responsibility to it. No one made you that way. You are making they're your thoughts and your feelings, right? And you get to decide what to do with them. It's not them, it's you, and that's good news. Awareness, accept, and take action with your sadness. Decide if you want to do something with it or do something about it, and then act or don't act depending on using emotional intelligence, being responsive rather than reactive. So, okay, so we got to go. Next, this one was on sadness and grief. Next one's on depression, guilt, and shame. So join us there, and we'll see you soon. Remember, permission to feel. Thanks.
You have been listening to Feel It to Heal It with your host, Matt Perelstein, creating peace inside and around us with emotional intelligence, EQ. Remember that your thoughts and feelings matter more than you ever realized to guide your actions and create peace, purpose, and power in life. You can catch prior episodes on the web at eqforpeace.org and on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more.